Ah yes, the Atari Jaguar CD. The mythical add-on that promised full motion video, CD quality sound, and a whole new generation of Jaguar experiences. Released in 1995 and shaped like a UFO, it was Atari's Hail Mary gambit during the height of the 32-bit console wars. And while the base Jaguar gave us some occasionally brilliant arcade conversions, the Jaguar CD had its eyes on another prize, bringing those big, bold, Laserdisc-driven arcade cabinets from the 80s into your living room with pixel-perfect accuracy. Today, we're looking at two such efforts, Space Ace and Dragon's Lair. Plus, the arcade-to-CD conversion of Primal Rage. 3 very different games, 1 prehistoric fighter and 2 animated QuickTime classics. How does the Jaguar CD version stack up against their arcade originals? And are they worth tracking down in the modern day? Let's find out in this Retro Gaming Boss Part 3 of the Atari Jaguar versus the arcade. First, let's kick things off with Primal Rage. Midway's prehistoric brawler from 1994 had all of the hallmarks of the era. Digitized sprites, blood, fart attacks, and gorilla chest pounding. Think Mortal Kombat, if it were made by a bunch of teenagers who just watched Jurassic Park 10 times in a row. The arcade version used stop-motion animation of clay models, giving it a unique look even among its digitized cousins. Now, enter the Jaguar CD version. This is bar none the best version on any console until the mighty Sega Saturn version came along. But for those who mistakenly believe that the Jaguar is really just a 16-bit system in disguise, this version proves that it's a significant step above the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo versions. The animation here is smoother. The character sprites are larger and more detailed, and the backgrounds don't look like someone smudged them in with a dull crayon. The sound is where the CD version really flexes. Roars, thumps, and that weird screech the Raptor makes when it flips. All clearer and punchier than anything on 16-bit. This is one of those cases where having the CD format truly makes a difference. Gameplay-wise, it's surprisingly competent. The controls can be a little stiff, but the special moves are doable, and once you get the rhythm down, it plays quite well. It's far more accurate to the arcade experience than the 16-bit console ports. And those fatalities? Hell yeah, they're here in all their blood-soaked and acid vomit glory. What's my verdict? The Jaguar CD version of Primal Rage is undoubtedly one of the top home versions of the game. If you want to play this dino brawler without dropping quarters or suffering through 16-bit compromises, this is the one to play. Let's move on to Space Ace. The evil Commander Borf has kidnapped Ace's girlfriend, the beautiful Kimberly, and is plotting to enslave the Earth using his dreaded Infanto Ray, a weapon that changes everyone it blasts into a helpless baby. Armed only with a laser gun, Ace must find and destroy the Infanto Ray, rescue Kimberly, and save the Earth. Space Ace is a Laserdisc video game first unveiled in 1983, just months after its predecessor, Dragon's Lair. It featured film-quality animation, and like Dragon's Lair, Space Ace is an animated QuickTime event game. Watch the cartoon, hit the joystick or button at the right moment, fail, and your character dies in a comically elaborate fashion. The arcade original ran on Laserdisc, which means buttery smooth video, but also arcade cabinets that overheated faster than your uncle's Pontiac in July. So how does the Jaguar CD version hold up? Honestly, it's really good. The video quality is far better than what we got on the earlier Sega CD version. Colors are richer, the animation is cleaner, and everything just feels more faithful to the arcade. You'll still notice a little bit of compression, and there are occasional loading pauses between scenes, but compared to other home versions at the time, this one is way ahead.
Space Ace, defender of justice, truth, and the planet Earth. Ace is being attacked by the evil Commander Borf. Hold your fire!
Did I mention the original game wasn't even on the Genesis or Super Nintendo? I'm not talking about the totally different 2D side-scroller on the SNES, but the real arcade animated adventure, yeah. And the Jaguar is just a 16-bit system. Right.
A sphincter says what? What? Exactly.
Controls are responsive for the most part, and you might still die a lot. It's not because of input lag. It's because Space Ace is just a trial and error kind of game. Sound, it's crystal clear. The voice acting and music comes through beautifully and makes the experience feel like the animated sci-fi show it always wanted to be. So my verdict is that this is arguably one of the best home versions of Space Ace ever released at the time. Far superior to the Sega CD version. It gets you about 95% of the arcade experience without needing a stack of quarters. It's a true Jaguar CD highlight. You knew it was coming. The king of Laserdisc arcades. The one, the only Dragon's Lair.
Below the castle, your odyssey continues against the awesome forces that oppose your efforts to reach the Dragon's Lair.
Released in 1983 and also animated by Don Bluth, this game was mind-blowing in the arcade. Full-blown cartoon visuals, voice acting, orchestral music, and yet, underneath it all, just another quick-time game in disguise. You play as Dirk the Daring, a knight, with the survival skills of a rubber chicken. One wrong move and you're toast, literally. Dragon's Lair has solidified itself as a cultural icon within gaming. On the Jaguar CD, Dragon's Lair makes a seriously impressive attempt to bring the original home. The video quality is excellent. Like with Space Ace, when compared to the Sega CD version, it's not even close. The Jaguar CD version looks more vibrant, less pixelated, and so much closer to the arcade presentation. Controls are better than expected too. There's still a bit of trial and error, but response times are solid. The infamous input lag is minimal here. Sound-wise, glorious. The CD audio gives the game that full, immersive feel. You get the music, the voice narration, and every over-the-top death scream in sharp detail. And best of all, you can now beat Dragon's Lair without going broke. No more dumping quarters into a Laserdisc machine and dying 2 screens later. Here, you can keep on playing to your heart's delight, or until you rage quit. My verdict? This is one of the best way to play Dragon's Lair outside of the actual arcade cabinet or a modern remaster. It's faithful, polished, and surprisingly accessible for a game famous for its difficulty. It's a genuine win for the Jaguar CD. So what should we make of all this? The Jaguar CD might have had a funny look and a small library, but when it came to arcade conversions, it did have a few gems. Now I've read all sorts of things about the hardware defects that plagued this add-on, and would just like to add a word about similar mechanical problems and manufacturing defects that were also commonplace in other systems. For example, my original Xbox experienced the same, where it had a broken laser reader for the DVD movies. Oddly enough, I was still able to play games on it that worked fine. And let's not forget about the infamous Red Ring of Death on the Xbox 360. Yeah, enough said. Should Atari have had better quality control with their manufacturing partners that made the CD add-on? Of course. But I think by the time the Jaguar CD was in production, the Atari and the Jaguar itself were already in some seriously deep trouble given the intense competition from Sega, Sony, and Nintendo at the time. So in terms of the Jag CD games, Primal Rage is easily better than the 16-bit versions and holds up as a solid home experience as a near clone of the arcade. Space Ace is a Laserdisc legend done right, and it finally plays like you remember it, not like a pixelated mess. And Dragon's Lair, this is one of the best ways to play the original without hitting the arcade. And while the Jaguar CD versions of Space Ace and Dragon's Lair are essentially FMV games, they weren't really any better or worse than the same titles on the 3DO. Regardless, they're a welcome addition to the tiny library for the Jag's ill-fated add-on. So if you're a retro gaming enthusiast or an Atari diehard, the Jaguar CD versions of these games deserve to be remembered and enjoyed for what they are, great versions of some arcade classics. Now, if you liked this look back into the Jaguar CD's arcade adventures, give me a like, subscribe for more retro rewinds, and tell me in the comments which Jaguar CD game did you play, or wish you could have. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out, reminding you to keep your games old school. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.